All right, we are back. Dynasty Trades in 5. I'm Clay.
I'm Shane.
I'm Scott.
All right, so tonight
That's
we are
it.
talking about. That's it. Yeah. Normally you give a little bit of heads up as to who I'm about to say, but no, we're going with Michael Carter for this show. He got hurt, I guess it was week 11 against the Dolphins. He had that massive blow up game against your Bengals in week 8 or whatever, where he got 14 targets, 9 catches.
14
So he was starting
targets,
to get some.
yeah.
He was starting to get some touches. So then he gets put on IR, and he's eligible to return week 15. So let's see where your heads are at on Michael Carter, Shane.
All right, so I hate Michael Carter, right? Hated him during the draft process. Thought he was completely overdraft, which he was, but overdrafted, which he was. But he still ended up being probably the 4th best back out of this class. Just off the top of my head, you got Javonte and then a couple other guys that are good, and then him. But he's outplayed Trey Sermon, right? He hasn't outplayed Elijah Mitchell, so maybe he's like 5. Anywho, so didn't buy into him at all. I still think he's a trash can. Made a couple trades for him because, look, it doesn't matter what I think, he was producing, right? If he's going to get 14 targets, 9 targets, 6 targets, which is what he had this year in 3 out of 5 games, he had a stretch where he had 9 targets, 14, 2, and 6 before he got injured. Unfortunately, I traded for him, so he got injured. But I will say this: we see how bad the Jets are without him, right? It's not like not like Ty Johnson or Tevin Coleman or Austin Walter. Is that his name? I don't think he's a real person. Whatever, generic Madden football player guy. I don't think they haven't played particularly well, and they kind of show you that, you know what, Michael Carter might be a little better than I thought. So if you still believe in Michael Carter, well, the last couple of weeks probably a really good week to try to trade for him, but still, you could still try to trade for him now while, you know, people are looking at winning this week if you don't need to.
Yeah, Michael Carter's a tough one because obviously his season ended early. He only ended up playing in 10 games. A lot of those games, you know, there was kind of a murky mess in his backfield. But right now, if you just take his 10-game sample size, and I know he has a couple big games that are propped that number up a little bit, but RB 23 in points per game. And I wrote an article. I actually looked back at this article before we did this video. This was back before the 2020 season, but it just looked historically at, you know, just kind of put running backs in buckets based on their size, based on their draft capital, based on their first year production. So I basically just took those 3 variables. And there were some decent results. You know, if you have a top 24 finish as a rookie and you check certain boxes in terms of draft capital. I mean, Michael Carter, he's barely 200 pounds. I think he's like 5'8", 5'9". So, I mean, he's not overly big. So that already is a little bit of a red flag. I mean, you look at the ADP and you see a bunch of guys that are kind of in that same mold. Chase Edmonds, Myles Gaskin. You know, there's a few others that kind of fit in that same, you know, that same tier. So it's kind of hard to trust going forward, but then you look back and you're like, a lot of those guys end up being at least solid players. Devin Singletary is another one that comes to mind. And the top 24 finish is pretty big for him in terms of like at least projecting him somewhat decently going forward. But I think I'm looking back in this article, I had Chase Edmonds as a buy before 2020. And that was just simply because you could predict some future opportunity. So I do think you can even see like a Chase Edmonds type role at least for Michael Carter going forward. But that's good. He doesn't have to wait 3 years to get it like Chase Edmonds did. He probably gets it next year. But I do think his ceiling's probably a little bit limited. So it just depends on what you want to pay. I actually tend to think his market value is going to be too high to go and try to buy. Like people are going to vault him up kind of with this fake insulation like we see with second-year running backs because it's like, oh, he's only going to get 30% better because look what he did as a rookie. And the truth is, like, he may only finish a top 24 running back like 1 or 2 other times at most. So do you really want to pay like RB 20 prices for him? Probably not. So I think that's the issue.
Yeah, no, this feels like his ceiling, but this isn't even a ceiling that I foresaw for him. I saw him as being like RB 40. And talent-wise, that's about where he's at. I need to keep putting that out there. But again, talent doesn't matter sometimes. But this definitely feels like his ceiling, but it does feel like it's something he could replicate next year. The Jets should have a better offense next year, right? Just by natural progression, you would hope. It can't be worse, right? So you would hope that their offense is a little bit better and he could score some touchdowns to help get some easy scoring too.
So would you? So he was taking kind of mid second in Superflex drafts, at least back third, something like that.
Well, let's say early, because it was early, because I was yelling at people for taking him early. So.
But you were taking Sermon, so you're just remembering where you took.
Yeah,
it rose as the draft season comes on,
right.
Which is typical. People see, hey, there could be a running back that has opportunity, so they rise up. But he was the first half of the second round pick by most standards.
So would you give up an early 22 second and a 22 third if you want to buy him?
No.
You're not giving up a mid 22 second?
Because I'm thinking that the owner, if he's been sitting on him, isn't just gonna. I mean, there's a chance that he's just gonna, hit the reset button, and yeah, you can have Michael Carter. But if I were an owner, I would want a little bit more on top of what I paid.
Well, he's not worth a first.
No.
So if I'm getting a top 16 pick, okay. So you said early to mid second. If I'm getting a top 16 pick, at worst, I probably can siphon through the running. I mean, there's going to be. I hate to say it, but if you look at some of the mock drafts, there's going to be 5 Michael Carters in this draft. That doesn't mean they're going to be. They could suck.
Well, that's the problem,
thing.
Is you have to figure out which one's right, because what's going to end up happening, unfortunately for a lot of us, is you're going to end up picking Trey Sermon and going, son of a bitch, I got literally nothing out of this guy.
But is the pick worth more than? Or do you even want Mike? I guess my argument would be I don't necessarily even want the RB24. So if I can maybe have the ambiguous pick in a spot where other people may see a bunch of options versus the actual player, I don't care. I'm not interested in buying the player in February. Who cares? I'd rather have the flexibility of the pick. Now, if it's the 208, that's different. But if it's like the 203, where there could be like a early second round receiver and 3 or 4 running backs I can choose from, I'd kind of almost rather have the pick.
Okay. Who would you rather have out of these guys? Michael Carter or Tony Pollard?
Kind of the same thing. Probably Carter, because I think his value will explode a little bit more, because I think his perceived opportunity is going to be higher.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hard to argue against that.
Would you rather have a Michael Carter and a call it mid 22 second, or Miles Sanders? This one's for you, Shane.
Yeah, I'm going to abstain from this one.
I don't like you. I don't like you at all.
Shane knows the correct process answer here too.
I mean,
give it up, bro. It's going to be year 4 and we still haven't seen it. We haven't even seen what Michael Carter's done.
Yeah, look, you got to move on from Sanders. If someone's going to give you a starting top 24 running back and a pick for Sanders, who all the talent in the world doesn't matter. See, this is a great indication is sometimes your talent level doesn't matter, because by talent level, Michael Carter shouldn't even be allowed on the same football field as Miles Sanders. But in fantasy, guess what? He's pretty much better than anything that Sanders has done, except for that one short, brief rookie season stretch.
Okay. Excuse me. Let's compare him to a couple wide receivers. So Michael Carter or Juju?
Carter.
Yeah, I think I still want to. Jesus, am I that out on Juju? I'm not that out on Juju.
He's gonna get a value bump too when he signs somewhere, you'd think.
The thing is, if I can get a top 15 pick for Carter, I'm not going to be able to get that for Juju. He would have to be in the perfect situation for the market to say I'm going to give up the wide receiver 5 in the class for Juju. I just don't see it.
I'm betting on Juju, the player at that point, not even resale value. I'm betting that, all right, Juju's, this time I mean it. This time he's really going to come back and show everyone. He's still only, 22 years old somehow? So it's fine.
19,
okay.
Yeah. So Michael Carter or Rondale Moore? They were taken in similar spots.
Take him Rondale.
That one's tough for me, man, because they're basically the same player.
Yeah, right.
I mean, honestly, I think without the in between the tackles work, I almost think you could use Rondale the same as Michael Carter, which as a receiver wouldn't be bad if it was truly being used as a receiver. But that's tough. Who do you think's value goes up more?
I think Michael Carter.
I don't know because DeAndre's AJ Brown's
Hopkins,
leaving. Like we've talked about this before.
I mean, if every Cardinal leaves, there's going to be like a 2-week stretch where like the market goes wild over Rondale, and I think that's probably the time to where you want to sell. So I guess if you could get another share of him now for Carter, then it's not terrible.
Yep. All right, I'm gonna cut this shit off.